going to do is go upstairs and look at a series of paintings that talk about people, all right? We're going to look at the paintings to sort of see what kind of stories they tell us about people, okay? Seem difficult?
Nationally recognized museum educator Phillip Yenawine guides two groups of students through the Art Institute of Chicago's 20th Century Galleries to look at modern art.
By the way, my name's Phillip.
This first group is sixth graders from Chicago's Nettelhorst School. And later, suburban New Trier High School art students will also examine and discuss art in the galleries. Yenawine will demonstrate a teaching strategy for introducing art to novice viewers, emphasizing self-discovery. His technique, developed collaboratively with Abigail Housen of Massachusetts College of Art, builds on what people already know and can do, and what they naturally like to do.
Could be either, couldn't it? Couldn't it? It's not sure. We're not sure. Does an artist have to tell us something for sure, or can he leave it kind of weird? Kind of weird? All right, good. Good. All right. What do you think the story of this picture is? What's this about?
About the old days.
About the olden days. Okay, good. What aspect of the olden days? Is it about kids going to school? So what might it be about?
A place that people used to go.
People shopping and stuff like that?
A place that people used to go.
Places that people used to go.
As opposed to traditional teaching methods that give out new information, this strategy, by asking fairly general questions, has the novices making connections between the knowledge they bring with them and the new works of art.
What probably is a bit radical about our departure is that we almost eliminate information. Information is given when asked. What we really build on is what people can see and what they think about what they see.
What time of day do you think it might be?
At night.
At night? Because there seem to be lights on, right? That's great. We see people hanging around. Some of them are talking, they might be laughing, they might be waiting to get a haircut. Yep.
It is outside because it says police. At that thing that where the guy that's smoking, it says police court, no parking.
Aha, do you see what you finally saw there? I had never seen that. It says police, no parking. Now, they wouldn't have that inside, would they?
The best way to start is to ask questions. Questions like, what do you see here? What's going on in this picture? What's happening? Followed by, well, what do you see that makes you say that when they make some kind of interpretive comment, is a way of getting them to engage with more and more of the subject matter and to consider the way different parts of the picture influence each other.
Despite the wealth of visual material in our culture, art is still a new experience for most of us. As novices, we tend to look quickly, notice very little, and usually respond with some kind of personal association. By asking questions, we can figure out what experiences, skills, and information appropriately challenge the novice art viewer.
It takes a long time to sort of figure out all the things that are going on to make the most interesting kind of story and argument you can about pictures. And we're going to go look at some more, and every picture we look at is going to have a little less of a story in it. So we finally are going to have to start figuring out stuff from things like how it's painted. All right? You ready for this? Yeah. Okay, good.
When learning something new, Housen's findings confirm that it's natural to focus on the concrete aspects. The learner first tends to ask, what is it, rather than how was it made, or how does it work, or who made it.
What's going on here?
Circus.
Circus. What do you say? What do you see that makes you know that?
They're riding horses.
Okay, some people are riding horses. What else? Some clowns.
Right there.
The first question people ask is not what was Van Gogh's mental state. The first question they ask is what's going on in front of me? How does it relate to my life? How do I connect to it? The unique things about museums, of course, is the fact that they have objects. No place else has the original artifacts that we have. And as a consequence, our education ought to focus on getting people to mine those objects for everything they're worth. They need also to learn what they can't learn from looking at the object. But most important is being able to decode as much as possible what the object actually says to them.
A cape. Maybe it's a cape someone just left up there, yep.
It looks like the light is shining on the wall right there.
Oh, what do you see that makes you say that?
Spotlight right there.
This
No, that right there. Yeah.
Right here.
Like lighter shade of green.
Yeah.
Like a light, it's okay, it's a lighter color, so it looks like it might be a light falling on that wall. And what does that arc suggest? What could we learn from thinking about that?
Spotlight.
That maybe it would be a spotlight.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Why?
Even when an answer is wrong,
that
for
start to
example,
say?
when they've pointed out something in a picture that isn't there, or they've misinterpreted something that's there, I accept the answer flat out as long as they can say why they think it's the case, if they can argue it. I then ask if other people think that's so as well, or what more could you say, or if desperate, does this make sense in terms of the rest of the picture?
Are there any wrong answers?
It's not if there's no wrong answer with regard to art, because there are right answers. I mean, there are people in the picture or there aren't. The color's green or it's blue. So but what there is a great deal of room for is interpretation, so that many people can have different ideas about what's going on. One good tactic for dealing with the answer that seems completely off base is to ask if there's general concurrence about that. What does everybody see that? Does anybody see anything different?
Why? Look what's in the background. So does this look like a circus?
No.
Well, somebody said yeah, and somebody said no. Let's find out. Why do you think it's a circus?
Because there are clowns in the background. And
Okay, maybe clowns are entertaining for a birthday party.
it might be, I'm thinking of another thing. You know, his face, it looks like he's mad. It might be that they were married and they got mad at each other and they weren't looking at each other.
Now watch to see what the kids are doing. See how they're reacting.
Okay, maybe underneath.
See if it's something they might continue on their own.
All right, what else?
Watch to see what kind of answers they give. Novices first tend to identify and describe what they see, and as they start to interpret, the storytelling begins.
Mad, he wanted to have a poker party with his friends, and he thought she would be out somewhere shopping with her friends, and he's mad because she did all that, and he probably wanted to have a party.
The museum educator's job in this circumstance becomes one of trying to make them ground their stories in the evidence of the pictures. What is it that you see that makes you conclude that? Does that make sense in terms of other things in the picture?
What makes you think that he's mad? And she just said, because of the expression on his face. What about that expression on his face?
He probably hair.
He's got this wrinkle in his brow, yep.
Probably think that.
The first goal is to try to turn novice viewers into what Hausen calls grounded storytellers. That is, that they can examine what they see in front of them, they can describe it, they can discuss it in personal, anecdotal terms. They can figure out a narrative based on what they think is happening.
She was throwing him a party, a surprise party, and he came from work. He was so tired that he was angry and he was tired. He wanted to go to sleep, and she gave him a party, and he didn't want the party.
Well, listen to that. Now look, is this something we see or something we think because of what we see?
Something to think of.
That's a difference, isn't it? So now what happens is we see stuff and it triggers stuff in our imagination and we come up with pretty interesting stories, right?
What most of the kids seem to be doing at this point, after looking at the picture at some length, is finding stories that relate to their own lives. And most of them are very penetrating interpretations, some more accurate than others, but in any case very meaningful to the kids.
Is there a difference between younger and older beginner viewers?
Younger kids will stay in the concrete reality of a picture, and older ones are more willing to move away from it to sort of see what symbolic content there might be in something, or to see what ideas might be behind motivating the creation of a picture.
All right, what do you think the underlying message might be here?
Modern men sort of come in, they're sort of out of touch with their maybe primal or their connection to nature. He's staring at a rock while there's this big, party going on there, sort of maybe examining the wrong thing.
What do you think? The modern man's missing the point?
Completely.
The modern man might be detached from nature?
Part of Yenawine's approach is to sequence the images, leading the novice from realistic works, namely descriptive and narrative art, towards more ambiguous pieces, and finally, to abstract art and thinking. A second strategy is to make novices ask why the artists chose a particular subject or style of painting, and what were the artist's intentions. With the high school students, Yenawine chooses to deal with the subject of nudity.
Because you can't walk into a museum without being confronted by nudes, because it's a difficult topic for us to talk about, because it's omnipresent in the culture these days, and also because it's a primary concern of modern artists.
I get the feeling that the nude people know more than we do, or more than they do, but I don't think they're coming to an awakening.
All right, she's arguing that nobody in the painting is coming to awakening, but rather us.
One of the critical things that we've forgotten is that one of the most important functions of art today is that it helps us think. We can look at things and learn both analytical and creative thinking from examining them carefully.
What's this about? What's going on here? They're bonding. Who's they? Mother and child. All right. What else?
The bodies in this one seem a lot different from the other one. They're much stronger and healthier. They seem to be more alive.
They're looking at each other. They have some contact there. It's a mother and child contact. It's
Right,
maternal.
great. The fact that the mother and the child seem to be literally bonded, very comfortable with each other, and the way they're looking and sitting. Okay, let's talk more about that. Think about that for a minute. Yeah?
Well, like the body parts are sort of disproportionate. Like the baby's arm seems like too thick and too wide, and so does her hand.
Believing that abstract art is the culmination of a long process, Yenawine maintains it also takes some time for novices to grasp the concepts that underlie less representational art. Even the vocabulary needs to be learned.
Both the paintings had an equally expressionistic sort of style. Just this one gives you a different feel than that one did.
Do you mind if I ask you what you mean by expressionistic
Like
style?
it had, rather than super realism, they both had different distortions that gave them sort of style. But the different styles give you different feelings. So one is not more realistic than the other. But
Not everyone agrees.
What is it about this that makes you think it's more realistic?
It's familiar.
The familiarity of the subject. What else? Anything else?
the color of the skin.
The color of the skin. Where are they? What can you tell me about the place, the setting?
Nowhere.
It's just nowhere. Maybe a beach? Why do you say that?
Because it looks like the darker gray is maybe the water and there's a horizon in the background.
For the high school students, Yenawine divides them into smaller groups, assigning an exercise.
And talk about what you think the painting means and how the artist made you think that. What the artist's choices were that made you believe what you do. Justify that argument in choices that you can see the artist made. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying?
The composition and the color and just her shape, your eye just keeps traveling up and down and up and down, and that does begin to feel like a growth.
It was really fluid, and she's very smooth, but everything around her is really straight, but she's really curvy, and like the colors around her kind of cold and green and blue, but she's orange, which is a warm color.
Artists make decisions intended to influence our responses. By examining these, we begin to become more objective. Then we might develop an interest in the piece's symbolic meanings and its history.
But none of this needs to happen within the context of a single visit. For young kids, as you can see from the tape, it's perfectly obvious that they're very content simply to tell stories and more stories and more stories.
And they told them that Jesus, he had rose from the dead, and on 40 days that he will ascend to heaven, and then they told everybody else, and
Okay, great. Now look, does that seem to be the story that might be told here?
Yes.
Yeah? What do you say?
For high school students, you can push them into the realm of thinking more abstractly about what's implied in the works that they're looking at.
The way she was dressed and the things around her were very oriental, yet she is strikingly European. And so we thought that it was perhaps an aristocratic European who to become worldly, or because she was occupying one of the other, like Hong Kong is owned by Britain or something like that, that she was trying to look more worldly by dressing in that way, and she looked really out of place.
A byproduct of all of this is the group interaction. Younger kids tend to all want to speak. Older kids will tend to build on each other's points or argue.
Okay, what else can you say?
I don't think that really fits because she looks too young to be able to assume such a confident and adult pose. Her arms are too, I mean, I just can't imagine a child ever assuming that pose because it's just so confident and, you know, challenging.
It was too rebellious for someone of that age because a lot of kids don't learn to be rebellious and don't learn how to break apart from their parents until they've reached adolescence. So it seems too adult emotion and too adult of a action for a person of that age.
The process of looking at art is also the goal of these kinds of lessons. In other words, the aesthetic experience is based on looking and thinking about your responses to what you see, how you feel and how you think.
What does this tell us about people? Okay, number one is there are different kinds of religions.
That it used to be different in the old days.
That it used to be different in the olden days.
They're probably Catholic.
They're probably Catholic.
Jewish.
What else? Or Jewish.
You'll notice that Yenawine almost always repeats the responses to show he's interested and everyone's heard the answer. He'll clarify or rephrase the responses to emphasize what they've just said is important and intelligent. Repeating also helps to remember key points when it's time to summarize the discussion.
We live in a culture that's based on the quick take, and art requires contemplation, much more serious looking. It's the pleasure of it. So it's a reasonable goal for a museum experience to get people to look and to look again and to think about them.
Looks like they're made out of hard clay. Or what do you see that makes you say that?
It's metal.
The way it looks.
It's just lumpy. It looks like that. Okay, good.
Just like the wind. Probably
Okay, these guys think he liked it like that. Do you agree?
if it was iron, it's the way.
Why would an artist make people look like this?
To be it looks like
It's like imagination. Okay, great.
I think it's very important to support beginner viewers, to make them feel very comfortable in their process, and in no way diminish their sense of self.
And how do the older students respond to an abstract piece?
Okay, good. It's overwhelming because it's so black and so big, and disturbing because
you say, why stuff?
Well, you usually associate black with not good things, like evil things or death or killings.
Seems like a wall, and you'd like to penetrate it, and partly because of that crack, you maybe think you could.
It's like there's, with all this, like, the negative vibes you get from all the black, it's like maybe beyond there's something good.
Okay? It's only when you start thinking about the symbolic meanings of black, or how disturbing that crack is, or what the difference between this kind of surface and this kind of surface and this is. When you start getting absorbed in that, when you start asking questions about, did he cover it up? Is it about to come open? Is this an uncovering? That you start sort of finding way meaning. So that the whole business of looking more carefully applies to all sorts of art in the 20th century. Probably applies to all art.
One way to progress into abstraction for the younger ones is to introduce works abstracted from reality.
They've got no ribs, he says. They have no rib cage, yep.
It looks like it was one person, but they got cut in pieces.
Now, what do you think of that? That's a pretty interesting idea, that it was originally one person.
It looks like they haven't ate for 3 years.
Looks like they haven't eaten for a really long time, okay?
When people, regardless of age, are new to museums, one of the most important things you can do for them is get them to enjoy the experience. That should be 50% of anybody's goal. It's more likely that enjoyment is going to come from doing something that they like and can do than from something that they can't. they can decode objects that have some relationship to physical reality more easily than they can abstractions. So why not concentrate on them?
Is that enough? Yeah. Is that a cool experience? Yeah. Do you need anybody telling you anything? No. That's what I would think. What I want you to remember from this is that you can do this every time you see a picture. You can spend time with it, looking at it and thinking about it. And if you're with other people, it makes it more fun to sort of exchange ideas.
Another idea to keep in mind for museum visits is to concentrate on a few objects, rather than pushing the beginner viewers to take in too much. The experience should convince novices there is more yet to see. In the end, Phillip Yenawine discloses some of the realities and the rewards of this teaching strategy.
This probably looks easier than it actually is, because it's quite a challenge to sort of keep up with kids' open-ended responses, to determine the proper pacing for the lesson, to figure out how much and when you need to conclude, to figure out what kind of information you need to supply. But the exciting thing is that I never fail to discover something new about the pictures we're looking at when I'm doing it with somebody else's eyes.